All right. Welcome to your real estate podcast. I believe this is episode number. Welcome to your real estate podcast. This might be episode 14, I believe. And I am at a home that is for sale in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, that I currently have listed. And just wanted to go through the step-by-step home selling process. So if you're looking to sell a house such as this one that we have on the market here, we're just going to tell you the step-by-step process of selling a home, right? So step one, you want to access your home's value. What that means is you want to get an appraisal, or you want to do a CMA, a comparative market analysis. Just look in your neighborhood, see how much homes are going for, so you can know the value of your home, right? You consult with a real estate agent. My link will be in the description down below. But you want to give yourself some time to kind of do some research, right? Get a professional appraiser. I always recommend that. It's going to cost you some money depending on the size of your home. You may pay a few $100s or $1,000 or more, depending on the size of the home. But an appraisal really is, carries more weight than a CMA, right? It tells you exactly what the market is, what the value is for your home. But you need to know, just because you have an appraiser doesn't mean buyers are going to pay that price, but at least it gives you an informed decision. You can stand on it. You can show it to buyers. This house appraised for X amount of dollars. I'm not taking anything less than that, right? But selling ultimately comes on your need to move. If you can hold on, you can hold on and actually get what you want. But if you need to move, sometimes you may need to compromise. But step one is access your home value. Do some market research, see how pricing in your neighborhood is. Get an appraisal. I really recommend it for sellers. Not everybody does. A CMA can suffice, but it's not the same. An appraisal is something more. Appraisers, especially in the state of Maryland, require licenses. They are held to a higher standard as far as what they say can actually stand in court, as far as value and things of that nature. It's always good to get a second opinion, but get a home value. Step two is choosing a real estate agent, right? Having a good real estate agent can make a huge difference. And I've said this a few times. I interview for sale by owners all the time. They interview me all the time. And some of them stick to their guns. They say, oh, I've sold houses on my own. I actually got a video about selling your house by owner. I can see the pros and cons of that. But trust me, people worry about this 6% or 5%, whatever the percentage may be, that you may need to pay agents. Truth of the matter is, I have seen this one too many times where people try to do it on their own and they sell for a little less than it would have sold for if you had an agent, which kind of balances things out. Anyway, it helps set a competitive price, right? Like I said, the CMA, those are normally created by agents. So agents can help you get competitive pricing. They can market your home effectively. For instance, this home that I have here, as far as the views on social media, it's well over 10,000, right? All the printouts, the emailing agents in the neighborhood, just home buyers that I have a huge list of. Not to say the seller won't be able to do all those things, but this is what I do. I collect a database of home buyers and investors that I can reach out to. And I have thankfully a social media presence as well. Negotiating offers. It's almost as though you're doing the biggest transaction of your life for the most part. Selling or buying a home is the biggest transaction most people will do in their lifetime. Why would you come into this just by yourself when the buyer is coming with a professional who negotiates prices all the time? Once again, some people stick to their guns. They know how to negotiate. They feel as though they can do it. That's fine. But it's almost as though, let's say you go to court, you get sued, and you're defending yourself, but yet the state or whoever is suing you is coming with a professional attorney that knows all the laws and nuances, just little things that can convince the juror. Same goes to a real estate transaction. And sometimes you get sued for $20,000, $30,000. Oh, I need a lawyer. But you're selling a home. The average home in Maryland is about $400,000. You're selling a home for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're negotiating with a pro, somebody who may. Some of these teams, they sell 100 plus homes a year, and this is the only time you may sell a house, or the second time you ever sold a house, but you're going up against a team of people who sell 100 plus homes every single year. If you have that much confidence in yourself, hey, go for it. But I always recommend getting somebody that can negotiate, who does this all the time, right? Handling paperwork and legalities. So in the state of Maryland, you got to keep your records for 5 years as far as us real estate agents for transactions, successful and unsuccessful. But last year and the year prior to, there were a whole lot of lawsuits and things ongoing. Some got settled, some are still, in the works. But these things come back to bite people as far as lawsuits, right? Any transaction as far as the Maryland Real Estate Commission, you have 3 years. Once again, I'm licensed in DC and Maryland. But in the state of Maryland, there's 3 years. This home is in Maryland, so we're talking about Maryland right now. But this applies nationwide, right, for the most part. And at least in the state of Maryland, a buyer has 3 years to come back and sue you for, as far as agents, not sue, but complain to the Real Estate Commission that they were unfairly treated, a buyer or seller, right? So just being able to have the proper documents, for instance, the contract of sale is 11 pages. Then you got an inspection contingency. You got a financing addendum. I just wrote an offer for a property yesterday. It has a solar panel. There's a solar panel addendum, inclusion and exclusion forms. If the house was built prior to or in 1978, you need a lead-based paint form and a pamphlet. There are just all these documents that are legally required, right? Escrow deposits. Once again, you can Google these things, Chat GPT, whatever, but these are things that can come back to bite you as far as a lawsuit. So you want somebody that knows how to handle these transactions, has done them a lot, and that can get you to the closing table without any hiccups, right? So technically, as soon as I get on the contract, I just kind of set reminders. Okay, inspection needs to be done at this time. So these are all the things, legalities, like there are timelines that need to be met. Even though you sign a contract, for instance, the inspection need to be done within 3 to 7 days, whatever you agree on, right? The earnest money must be deposited at this time. Just things that need to be done at a certain time. And if these timelines are not met, the buyer or the seller may be held liable. So just understanding those legalities and all the required documents by the state of Maryland alone, or DC, or wherever you may be, right? You just need to have those things in check, right? That's just a plus that a real estate agent can cover for you. And on top of it all, if you have the time to look it up, everything is online, really, if you can do your research. But like I said, I have videos talking about the home buying and selling process, as I am doing now, and I can go into more details. But the truth of the matter is, having somebody who does this all the time just helps. And on top of it all, some people are professionals. They have their own jobs. Like if you're a doctor, a surgeon, a teacher, a professor, even if you got whatever kind of job you have, if you're handling all those things, or if you're just raising kids, whatever it may be, and now you're handling this transaction that has all these timelines, to me, I just believe it's better if you hand it over to somebody who is going to take full control of that, because once again, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here. So the saying goes, don't be penny wise, pound foolish, right? Don't try to save a penny and lose a dollar, is all I'm saying. Penny wise, dollar foolish, however you try to look at it. Don't try to save a penny and then lose $100. So just get somebody. It may cost you a little bit, but as far as what is going to save you on the back end, or sometimes, as I mentioned, if you get the right agent that can market and price your home in a competitive manner, you might end up getting more money. Anyway, just choose your right agent. Step 1, assess the value of your home. Step 2, choose a real estate agent, right? Step number 3, prepare the home for sale. So this home right here has been prepared for sale. Everything is brand new. It was renovated except for maybe the HVAC unit, but that even was inspected by HVAC tech. But this is a different kind of home, I would say, because it's it was completely remodeled, let's put it like that. So it's different. Most homes, people live there and then they want to sell it. All I'll say is just prepare for sale. And here's the thing, right? If you're living in a house now, you know, people always say, oh, when I buy a house, I'll fix it up. And as soon as they move in, life happens and they don't end up fixing the house. To save yourself some cost, do some spring cleaning annually. Anytime there's spring cleaning prior to the holidays or after the holidays. So for the holidays, you're preparing for family, you deep clean the house. After the holidays and all those foot traffic, you know, you clean your baseboards. Excuse me. Just do some regular annual cleaning and touch-ups and minor repairs. Don't let things fall apart. So when it's time to sell, you don't have this huge bill of repairs that is due, right? If you constantly keep your house up slowly, when it is time to sell, you may not need to do a ton of repairs. So I would say touch-up paints, right? You want to touch up paint. You don't want people doing a tour and they see fingerprints all over the hallways, the stairways. So touch-up paint, declutter. So people want to see a house. They don't want to see your life. They want to see how it's going to look when they live there. So they don't want to come in and see everything you have, your personal family pictures and all those things. Those, you know, they want to buy a house. They don't want to buy your lifestyle. So what I'll say is the key or the target is 70-30, right? You want to take away 70% of your personal things and just keep it at a 30. So a good rule of thumb is it should look like almost like a furniture showroom, right? When you go buy furniture, you see how they set it up there. That's called staging. Staging, if possible, stage the home to help buyers imagine themselves living there. If you're not sure, you know, just talk to your agent once again. Agents may have staging partners. Some agents do the staging themselves. So homes that are staged sell 10% more. Sell for 10% more than homes that are not staged. So just something to think about. The staging and decluttering the house, you know, you want to make it look like a showroom. That's the key, right? The appraisal normally would let you know what the house is valued at. This is not a must, but it's something to think about. Probably getting an inspection done so you know the problems with the house and what you need to repair. just so buyers always have this inspection trap that they set. You know, as a buyer, that's why I said get an agent. As an agent, it's a trick I have up my sleeve. If I know my buyers maybe $10,000 short, and I've done a walk in the house and I see about $15,000 worth of repairs that may work, that may be needed, you set an offer close enough. Then when you do the inspection, the inspector is going to give you a list of things, and then you come back with that, oh, all these repairs need to be done. Can you drop the price down? You know, so it's a trick that buyers agents use. So as sellers, these are all the things, the nuances you need to be mindful of just going into this against a professional. But anyway, be mindful of that inspection trap. So what I would recommend to sellers, you don't have to, but it's another few $100s or $1,000 depending on the size of the home. Get an inspection so you know the repairs that need to be done. And if they're like huge repairs and you don't feel like doing it, the as-is sale is an option. But you have to disclose these things. You know, that's the trap and the negative and positive with an inspection. If you do get an inspection and you know about the defects, you have to disclose them. So either you get an inspection, get the property fixed, or at least you know what you're getting ready to sell, right? But if you fix all these major and obvious repairs, leaky faucets, chip paint, you know, if you know the HVAC doesn't work, your roof leaks, whatever it may be, you get all those things repaired. It just gets you selling with confidence. And once again, that 3-year period of a buyer coming back saying, you know, you sold them something fraudulent doesn't necessarily have to do with sellers. That the 3-year thing is really for agents here in the state of Maryland. At least for buyers or sellers to go to the real estate commission with a complaint. So yeah, but anyway, do some repairs, right? Next thing is curb appeal. That's, you know, first impressions matter. The first thing people see is the curb of the house. That matters. And you know, sometimes people are coming to buy a house, and as soon as they're driving in, they see the neighbor's got like 10, 15 cars in the driveway, trash all over. That already is like gonna discourage them, right? The same applies to when they drive in and they come into your yard and the grass is overgrown, there's leaves everywhere. This is the winter time now. So let's say the fall, all the leaves that fell down were not blown up, you know, and it just looks like a mess. That takes away the value. You know, you want people pulling in and saying, wow, I want to live in this house. So curb appeal, make sure the exterior of the house looks good. Mow the lawn, trim bushes, add fresh paints or flowers, right? That's something you can do to just add value to the home. So sometimes they say fences can increase the value by $3,000 to $5,000 depending. Not to say you should, but just something to think about. After that, the next step we'll say is set a competitive price, right? Set a competitive price. If you price it too high, buyers may be scared away. Price it too low, you could be leaving money on the table. So that's what an appraisal is for, and that's also what a CMA is for. Step one, again, get yourself do some market research, right? So pricing it properly is good. Your real estate agent will help you set a competitive price based on your home's value, market conditions, and comparable sales in your neighborhood. So just set a competitive price, right? Step 5 would be marketing the home, right? Online listings, you know, for sale by owners, don't go on the MLS. The MLS is the multiple listing service that agents use. Once we put it on the MLS, it kind of saturates every MLS affiliate, such as Zillow, Redfin, Rocket Mortgage, and things of that nature. All these websites get it instantly as soon as we upload it on the MLS. But if you're doing a for sale by owner, now you got to do Facebook Market, Redfin, Zillow, Rocket Mortgage, Homes.com, Sold.com. So many different websites that sell houses. You need to put your house, upload different for sale advertisements in different websites. For realtors, once we do the MLS, it covers pretty much all of that. There are some extras that we can do with sites that are not affiliated with the MLS. Photography, high quality photos can make a huge impact. One thing I got from the seller of this home when he looked at the listing, man, those pictures look very good. And it's just something to think about. Just get a professional photography, right? As I mentioned, online listings, make sure your home is listed on a real estate website like Zillow, Realtor.com, etc. But putting it on, putting it on the MLS covers all of that. Photography, high quality photos can make a huge impact. You want your home to stand out online. So when it stands out online, it draws foot traffic, right? This is a video for sellers, but as an agent, I know the tricks to the trade, taking pictures at an angle, the lighting, so pictures are very good, but I always advise buyers to always go look at the house because some photographers know how to work wonders, right? And what you see online may not actually represent the home you're going to purchase. But anyway, at least on the seller's point of view, good pictures drags the buyers in, it brings them in, captivates them, right? So that's that. Back to that first impression. When they see the picture, it pops out, ooh, I got to go check this out in person. Open houses and showings. So this is an open house we did right here, and we just used the opportunity to do this video actually. So open houses gets buyers in, people in the neighborhood that may want their friend to move next to them, a family member to move next to them. And professional open houses, got signs all over the neighborhood, letting people know there's an open house. We advertise it a couple weeks in advance, but just do open houses, and you got to be flexible with showing. Good thing about this listing here, it's vacant, but if you live in the house, you got to be flexible with showing. Be ready to move in and out, at a drop of, maybe you request an hour's notice or 2 hours notice, whatever may work for you, but be flexible with showings. The last thing you want is a buyer that wants to view the house and you can't step out to let them view the house. So your agent may organize these, to get more people in the door, but as a seller, be flexible with showings. You got to be able to step out. Social media, many agents will post about your property on platforms like, Instagram, Facebook. You can, and when you sign your contract, your listing contract, you can state whether or not you want this done. Here are some things to be mindful of. I went to $1 million showing about a couple weeks ago, and we noticed every single netting, like the screen on the back windows were ripped open. It's like people were trying to open the windows from the back. But it was a new construction, so the contractor put these little clips on top of the window, brand new windows with a clip on top of them, so it prevents people from being able to open the window from outside. Good thing for that. Or else, what we found out was in that neighborhood, these teenagers would go break into these houses and just throw parties. It's even on the news. They would just post a party at this house, but it's a house that's for sale, that's vacant, and they just vandalize it. So that's why you really need an agent. Search for a good agent that's really on top of their game, because some agents just put a sign in front of your yard and they disappear, and people may come in and do anything with your house, right? So you want, really want an agent that's going to use a Sentry lock rather than a combo lock. Sometimes the Sentry locks may have issues, but at least have an agent that's on top of the game, constantly checking on your home, because somebody may come, you got malicious people out there, may come look at your house and then they know it's vacant. They come in, break in, and just throw a party. This is really going on where teenagers just go, they see a for sale sign, they post online about a party at the house, they break in and throw a party. I was shocked when I'm touring the property, $1 million listing with this couple, and they pointed it out to me. I didn't even notice. They said all the screens on the back are ripped up. So somebody cut the screens and literally tried to open up the windows, and the gentleman was showing the house to his sister because he lives in that new development, and he said his neighbor had, a couple vacant houses down the block got vandalized by these teenagers. So he knew about that, and that's why I mentioned open houses, sharing to your neighbors that live in that area, because that was a perfect example of a brother already living in that cul-de-sac, wanting his sister to come live in there. So they were looking at the house for the sister, and the brother was aware that this was going on with the teenagers in the neighborhood, right? Yeah, so that kind of touches on two things. One, why you need to market the neighborhood. You can door knock the neighborhood. You can send them hand mails or flyers, because you never know who may want a friend or a family member to move close to them. But also, when you have the house vacant, be very mindful to have your agent check on it periodically, after showings. This listing, for instance, after the showing, came back just to check on it, and we saw that the lock wasn't done properly, and you just wonder, like, why did this agent not close this thing, properly? So these are just things to be mindful of. You want somebody that can check on your house and make sure nothing wrong happens to it. But anyway, be flexible for showings and open houses. Step 3, show your home, right? Step 6, we already talked about that. Have it neat and clean. So if you do live there, you really want to keep it clean so you can kind of step out, at a moment's notice. Some sellers like to be there when the house is being shown. One time, a buyer was very happy that the seller was there. The seller was able to answer a lot of questions. Other than that one time, most of the time when I show a house with a buyer and the seller's there, it has not really gone too well. The buyer doesn't feel too confident checking out every corner. It's just like you got Big Brother looking over you, so some buyers don't feel too confident. Well, actually, I'll say two. One of the houses I got on the contract now, the buyer was very happy to meet the seller. So sometimes there's a plus with the seller being there, but you don't want to be too intrusive walking behind the buyers. I would recommend, if you can, step out. But if you want peace of mind and you want to be there while they tour your property, fine. It just doesn't give the buyers the most comfortable feeling when somebody is walking behind them and watching over them. They want to come and be able to open all your drawers, look everywhere, make sure it's a big purchase. They need to be able to look at everything. But anyway, it can play both ways. Whether you stay or leave for a showing, I've seen the plus and the negative. All I'll say is just make it available, make it clean. Yesterday, it's kind of crazy. I'm actually submitting an offer for this house, but it was bad. When we walked in the house with one of my buyers just yesterday, there were food chips on the floor. One of the rooms we weren't even able to look because we could hear the dog barking in the room. So we didn't open that door. So now my buyers are submitting an offer with a dog. in one room that they didn't view. So now we got to give them a buy and hold harmless kind of thing because they didn't get to see the entire house. They will see it though, as if the offer is accepted, I'll see to it that that dog is moved out. But these are all things, like I said, get an agent, because a buy or hold harmless is like, for instance, a military couple buying a house, but they can't see it because the family is out of state. So they need this form saying hold harmless. They're buying it without seeing it. So these are all the legal things we talked about that sellers may not be aware of that they need to provide buyers. Anyway, or the buyer need to get themselves. Either way, make sure the house is ready for showing. Yesterday, like I said, there were food chips on the ground, like potato chips. You can see it's a owner-occupied home. Dog droplets in the back kitchen area. It was just unsightly, The buyer liked the property, and I actually wrote the offer last night and submitted it to the buyer this morning to sign. But personally, that wasn't a good showing, if you ask me. The buyer wasn't able to go to the backyard. I opened the back door and got to the backyard, but they were just good, being that the dog was barking. There was like food everywhere. The buyer just wanted to be in and out. So, that could have turned that buyer off. Good thing is the location was pristine for them. They still told me to submit an offer. But, when you are showing your home, make sure it's welcoming, and it's clean. Just something to think about. Step 7, review offers when you do get offers. So sometimes you may get an offer that is super high, over asking, but it gives a 2-month closing period. Is that what you want? Are you willing to wait 2 months? So the dollar amount that you get may not always be the best. Sometimes people may do a very high closing, but so many contingencies. I can't close on this transaction until I sell mine. Are you willing to wait 6 months till somebody sells their home before they can buy yours? So just the dollar amount may not always be what to look for. Sometimes people can close in a week, but it's a very low offer, a cash offer. So reviewing offers. You can do that, you can make that decision, but once again, a good agent can help you with that. But you can all just understand the terms. Look at things like offer prices, contingencies, closing dates. Just because the offer price is super high, if they got so many contingencies such as financing a contingency, inspection, that's cool, those are standards. But how about selling their home prior to buying yours? Just things of those nature, right? Of that nature. Consider your options. You can accept, reject, or counter an offer. Once again, your agent will guide you through this process, but a home, as I mentioned to home buyers all the time, is not worth what is asked for. It's what you negotiate. That's what the house is worth. So an appraiser can tell you the value they appraise it as. The state, I just got my state taxes for my personal home yesterday as far as what the state values my property for. So the state may give you their number as to what they value it for and then tax you accordingly. A real estate agent may come with a CMA, but at the end of the day, what your house sells for is what it's worth. What the market is willing to pay is what it's worth. A few years ago in the pandemic, houses were selling for over $100,000 above asking. Now, you don't get that as much, It's not as competitive anymore. Things have started to slow down. It's leaning more towards a buyer's market, right? So just something to think about, right? Consider your options. You can accept, reject, or counter offer. What you negotiate is really what your house is worth, not what you ask for. Right, and we talked about negotiating. You may need to go back and forth with the buyer, especially if their offer is below your asking price, or if there are contingencies like needing to sell another property. Once again, your real estate agent will help you negotiate this step, or walk through this step, or negotiate on your behalf. You got some people, you know, that are good, they're good at bargaining. Some people can sell ice to an Eskimo, but some people can't hackle, you know, or haggle or negotiate and go back and forth. You know your strengths, right? But get an agent that's good at negotiating. Step 10, complete inspection and appraisals. That's where the buyer goes through these things. They now get their appraisal out there and their inspection out there, and then you negotiate after inspection. Told you about the inspection trap, where buyers may come close to your asking or even offer you asking during inspection, then come and try to bring down the price. That's why I recommend for sellers, you do the inspection, you're on top of your game, make sure you've already fixed everything so you don't get blindsided by another inspector. So if an inspector comes and gives you all these problems they find with your house, you can then present your inspection report and say, no, I have my inspector, they said these things were up to code. You don't want to be blindsided, right? So just complete the inspection and appraisal phase. This is separate from what you did in prepping the house for sale. This is now the buyer doing their appraisal and their inspection, and then you negotiate after that, right? Finalizing the sale. Finalizing the sale. Once all contingencies are cleared, inspection, financing, you go to closing. Here's what will happen. You sign paperwork. You need to sign the deed, settlement statement, and other closing documents. Transfer of ownership in the state of Maryland. When this happens, normally the buyer walks away with a key. You as a seller, you walk away with a big bag of money. Well, you don't really walk away with the cash, right? Things get wired, but you get what I'm saying. Paying the closing costs, all of this is really done by the title company. They do all the transferring of funds, right? So 9 times out of 10, you don't have to worry about that. They're going to pay the taxes, pay the buyer's agent, pay your agent. Just transfer all the funds and you get what you get, right? Even they even pay the loan. If you still have a balance on your loan, title companies normally even cover that. And then you just get a check for selling the house. Hopefully you get a check, because you do have short sales sometimes where people sell houses below what they owe and they don't walk away with anything, right? But if you have equity in the property, you can get some money back. That's the goal, actually. Step 12 is moving out. So for instance, the offer I told you about that I just wrote last night, we saw a lot of furniture there, and like I mentioned, a dog and, you know, other unsightly things. And the buyer, one question they asked me is, this house for sale? I'm like, yeah, it's for sale. We have a 30-day kind of period, not etched in stone, but normally it takes on average 30 days. And by the time all these things happen, that seller should have moved out. So, you know, you got to remove all personal belongings, clean the house for the new owner, leave any agreed upon appliances or fixtures. So, one thing I'll say is, when closing occurs, you know, buyers typically do a final walkthrough, because you may have told them, we're closing on the 10th of, let's say, any month, January or whatever. The buyer would walk it on the 9th or the 8th. Some even do it on the 10th. And if they do a final walkthrough and they see the house is not in the condition upon which they signed, you know, they can back out, or can require you to get it fixed and say, we're not going to close until you fix these things, you know. So my advice to you is, Make sure the house looks exactly like the buyer expected it to be. If anything happened, let's say you were moving and you damaged something, be proactive, get it fixed, or at least communicate it. That way you don't get blindsided by somebody walking out of a deal because you took a refrigerator that you told them you were going to leave, things of that nature. So that's the step-by-step home buying process right there. There are a few things I wanted to touch on for home sellers. I kind of mentioned these, but I'll just dive in a little deeper really quickly. I mentioned why you may need an appraisal before listing your house. It just understand, your home's estimated value before listing. So it helps you price it competitively. Get an objective third-party opinion of value. So an appraisal is really, even though they say an opinion, it's a certified opinion. Appraisals in the state of Maryland and most states, even in the district, are certified by the state, licensed and certified. So it's an opinion, but it's a very strong and certified opinion. Courts lean on these decisions from appraisals to see how they can auction properties. When you sell divorce properties, probate let's say family members die, pass away, inherit a house, an appraiser comes in and the court can go by that judgment to see that opinion of the appraiser to see how they can price this home, when they divvying up assets. So it's a very strong opinion. Help set a realistic and competitive price. Avoid overpricing, which can cause your home to sit on the market longer. Avoid underpricing, which can cause you to leave money on the table. Use an appraiser to support your asking price during negotiations. So if you say I want $500,000, the buyer is trying to tell you how your house is not worth 500 grand, you have a certified opinion to stand on your asking price. There's a biblical saying, a scripture actually, that says, it's no good, says the buyer, then he leaves and brags about how good of a deal he got. This is in the Bible. It's in the book of Proverbs. I'll try to find it and maybe leave it on the screen somewhere. But this is really the truth. When somebody is buying, they tell you how trash your home is. Then once they beat you out of the price, they go and they brag to their friends like, oh, I got this house for a good deal. So the appraisal really helps you to back your asking price, right? Identify value issues that may cause, cause problems pretty much, So the appraiser will point out these things. Gain confidence when comparing online estimates and agent opinions. So even when your agent is telling you how much they think your house can go for, the appraiser is something that just gives you more confidence. Unique luxury, or hard to price properties. So it's saying a unique property. So some properties are anomalies. Like for instance, I mentioned a house in Annapolis that I sold in a cul-de-sac with 1 or 2 car garage homes. So some homes had no garages. This home was in a corner lot with 3 garages, right? How do we price this to be competitive? It's unique. It's not the same as all these other homes in the area. Even though all the square footages are the same, it's in a corner lot, bigger yard with an extra garage, right? Luxury homes and hard to price properties. Some properties are just built differently, right? Are not as common as everything else in the neighborhood. So an appraiser will really give you concrete value. It can help in pricing strategy. Obviously, the market is shifting. Not always necessary in fast-moving or seller's market. This is just the truth. It's not always necessary. Most sellers go without the appraisal. Lenders will order their own appraisal for the buyer anyway, so why waste your money, some may ask. This may just be peace of mind, but the lender is going to require it anyway. And the buyer is not always going to show you that appraisal. They can just tell you, oh, it appraised. So for instance, if you have the house on the market for 400 and it appraises for 450, that buyer is not going to show you, oh, your house appraised for $50,000 more. Because then you're going to feel like you're getting duped, right? And be like, nah, I can't sell it. I need 450. So the buyers don't always tell you what it appraised for. The lenders will just say, oh, the house appraised. But they will tell you if it doesn't appraise for your asking. You can still say, hey, it appraised for $380, but I want 400. And it's up to that buyer now to pay the remaining 20 grand or to walk away. But if it overprices, if it appraises higher than you're asking, they don't always tell you, you know. So I recommend you getting it, just so you know. CMA from an agent may be sufficient, you know. Best use tools, not a replacement for pricing advice. So it's just, by the way, something that I recommend for sellers, why it may help you get an appraisal. And I also recommend getting an inspection prior to selling, right? But once again, it's not etched in stone, it's not law. You can always do without it. All right. Now we're quickly going to run down, because this is really for sellers, right? I'm talking about negotiating price and choosing the right offer when selling a home. How do you negotiate for those that may be doing it for sale by owner or working with an agent and your agent is coming to you, because it ultimately is your decision. An agent may give you advice, but it's still your decision. So how do you negotiate price and choosing the right offer when selling a home? Just some things to consider. One, understand the highest price isn't always the best offer, right? We mentioned that already, but you got to watch contingencies. So somebody may offer you $100,000 more, but they're telling you it is contingent upon me selling my house. God knows how long they're going to take to sell theirs. You may be on a time crunch and need to get out of there. Review the net proceeds, not just the sale price. So closing costs, concessions, credits. So somebody may give you asking price, but may ask for all these closing costs and concessions. And by the time you calculate all of that, your net proceeds may not be as high. So just review your net proceeds. That's what you really want to focus on. How much take home am I going to get after the sale? Evaluate the buyer's financing strength. So the best is cash offer. That's the strongest one, but most cash offers don't always come at asking. Cash offers, conventional is second, in my opinion. FHA, VA, you know, you got USDA loans. You just want to check the financing strength. So somebody may be offering you an FHA loan that may be more attractive than a conventional, because even though they're doing an FHA loan, they're putting so much down, you know, they're really going to qualify based on their pre-approval letter and then the balance that they're going to have. It just looks more attractive. So when you check the financing contingency, you want to kind of look at just something that it's not always etched in stone. Most lenders will give a pre-approval letter, but something that speaks more than a pre-approval letter, in my humble opinion, is what is the loan balance going to be? So if somebody is buying a home with a loan balance of $200,000 when the house is priced at $500,000, that is very attractive. I'm confident this person can see this deal through, because they're putting almost $300,000 in cash. Somebody that has that kind of cash and a pre-approval letter, I feel good about that. But if somebody comes through with another offer, even though it's really high on the offer price, but their loan is almost at $380 and the asking price is $400, I'm like, I'm not too confident they can take this thing home. They might be, I'm just saying. So just check out the loan balance, right? Got to compare earnest money deposit, which indicates buyer commitment. So somebody's doing a cash offer, but they put $1 down on earnest money. I'm not going to take that too seriously, because they can back away and only lose $1. But somebody comes with a FHA or conventional, but they put $10,000-$15,000 down on earnest money. I'm like, oh, they're putting their money where their mouth is, you know. So consider contingencies, inspection, appraisal, financing, home sale contingency, some things to look out for when you get an offer. Assess the appraisal risk and likelihood of the home appraising on the agreed price. So like I mentioned, most buyers that are using lenders would have to get it appraised anyway. So you got to keep that in mind and make sure your asking price is not going to be way above the appraised value, because that can break the deal if the buyer doesn't have that cash. So remember, once again, that's why checking the loan balance on these financed loans and offers is good, because if somebody's coming with a lot of cash to the table, you can rest assured that even though your house may be appraised for lower than you're asking, this person coming with all this cash may be able to cover the difference. Something to think about. Look at the proposed closing timeline and now how it aligns with your needs. That's self-explanatory. If you want to move out of the month, but they want to close in 2 months, that doesn't work for you. So keep that in mind. Factor in seller concessions or repair requests already built into the offer. So if they're coming to you and they're asking you for $10,000 in closing costs, and then they're already asking you for, and then they come back and they ask you for another 10 grand for repairs due to the inspection report, that's $20,000 they're asking you for. So normally, I even tell my buyers, if this seller is going to do some concession on the price and also help you with closing, don't expect a lot when the inspection report comes back. But just something to keep in mind. Weigh cash offers versus finance offers and their impact on certainty, speed, and things of that nature. So cash offers are fast. If the title company can get everything cleared with the state or the county, you can probably get that deal done in a week or so, right? Financed offers normally take, on average, 30 days. Can be sooner or longer, but cash offers normally move a lot faster. Understand the buyer's flexibility on terms. Rent back. Rent back is like you are trying to stay in the house for a couple days after selling it. You need a couple days or so to move out. You know, is the buyer willing to work with you? The date of possession, repairs. So some buyers are willing to work with each other, with the seller. Some sellers are willing to work, but some people just like to make things difficult. So understand the buyer's flexibility on terms, your terms as well. Use counter offers strategically to improve your price, terms, and timeline. Once again, they offer you this doesn't mean you have to accept it, right? Your house is worth what you negotiate, not what you ask for, right? Recognize when multiple offers, allow leverage and escalation strategies. So you get multiple offers, you may have the upper hand. And now some people may submit an offer with an escalation clause. An escalation clause is pretty much saying we're willing to beat this asking price up to X amount of dollars. So for instance, you're asking for $400,000. The buyer comes to you with $380,000, and they say they're willing to beat any competing offers all the way to $420,000, but they're willing to beat all competing offers by $500. So for instance, they offer $380, somebody offers $390, they can beat that offer by $395, $390, $500, all the way up to the amount we mentioned. So keep in mind for escalation. You know, you got leverage when you got multiple offers, right? Avoid over negotiating. Sometimes you talk yourself out of a good deal. You know, you got a good buyer, now you're trying to play too much of a hardball, knowing very well you need this sale to go through, and you talk yourself out of the deal. The buyer says, you know what, keep your house, I'm gone, I'll go find it somewhere else. So avoid over negotiating. Rely on market data and recent comparable sales to guide your pricing decision. You know, I see this all the time because I talk to sellers a lot, especially expired listings, houses that didn't sell. And you know, when you ask them for feedback as to why their home didn't sell, 9 times out of 10, sometimes they blame the agent. But some are honest and say they didn't get what they were asking for. So, I know it's your home. You may feel as though it's worth $1 million. It's not what you think it's worth. It's what the market is willing to pay for it. It's almost like a car. You know, this customized car, you put in so much sweat equity into this car and you feel as though it should be worth this much. And the buyers are telling you, no, it's not. So also be mindful of when you sell, keeping the colors pretty bland, you know, something that the masses can like. You know, colors that are unique to you may make your home harder to sell. Anyway, rely on market data and recent comparable sales to guide your pricing decision. Lean on your real estate agent's negotiation experience to protect your interest. Once again, that is up to you whether you want to hire an agent or not, but it's almost like a player. I saw this, I think it was Des Bryant who played for the Cowboys. He was talking about how he was, it may not have been Des Bryant, it might be one of them. I think it might have been Des Bryant. He was on the field walking with Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys. And Jerry Jones was sweet talking him and trying to get him to sign a deal. He said he looked at Jerry Jones and he asked him, he said, Mr. Jones, do you think you can guard me out on the field right there? One-on-one? He's a wide receiver. And Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, said, nah, I don't think I can guard you one-on-one. He said, you would destroy me. He said, so Mr. Jones, what makes you think I can negotiate with you? You could destroy me. You know, he said, I need my agent to be here. So he was wise enough to know his strengths on the field, but Jerry Jones is a businessman that negotiates deals all the time. And he's trying to negotiate this million-dollar deal, multi-million-dollar deal with this player. And he's like, nah, that's not my strength. You can't guard me on the field. I cannot negotiate with you. So let me get my agent. So just be mindful of that, right? So lean on your agent's expertise. Choose the offer that provides the best balance of price, certainty, and terms. All right. So that is something to think about when negotiating prices and choosing the right offer when selling your home. Right. Finally, we're going to try to touch on choosing the right real estate agent to sell your home. If you do decide the for sale by owner route doesn't work for you, how do you choose the right real estate agent? Just things to look at. Experience selling homes in your local market. So I believe I can sell homes almost anywhere in Maryland and DC, but some areas are unique. You know, some areas closer to the water. If I don't feel as though I've sold houses there, I'm just going to be upfront with the seller. Hey, I think I can get the job done, but I haven't sold here. I would really appreciate if you trust me with this. I'll give you my best effort. I'll do the research. I have resources in the area I can tap into, but I haven't sold here. That's my job, to be transparent to the seller. But as a seller, you need to make sure this person has sold in this area. But it doesn't necessarily mean because they haven't sold it, they can't get it done. You just need to make sure, okay, you don't have the experience. Do you have the drive? Either or. But experience is good. Sometimes though, hunger beats experience. Think about it. Even the David and Goliath story, when you think about it, David was inexperienced, but he had the drive, right? And most of the people on his camp were scared, even though they had all the experience. Sometimes experience holds people back. So it's not always the end all be all, but make sure people have experience. Or if they don't, at least they have the drive, right? Proven track record with recent sales and a strong list to sell price ratio. So they listed, were able to sell it. The percentage of list to sell ratio, right? Deep knowledge of neighborhood pricing trends and buyer demands. You need to look into this. Strong marketing strategy, professional photos, video, online exposure, and social media presence can help. Also just an agent that's known in the area, right? Clear pricing strategy backed by data, not just promises. Some people talk a good game. I'm willing to walk away from listings if I feel as though you're trying to overprice it, you know, because pricing it properly really works or helps. Effective communication and responsiveness throughout the process. So one thing I do personally is every week a seller should hear something from me regarding their house, even if nothing is happening. Constantly texting. This home that's for sale right here, I was here maybe a few days ago, texted with the seller, even yesterday, you know, constantly, even though it's even been on the market for quite a while right now. I'll be honest with you, the market isn't moving, but the seller is even confident in what I've done to the point where, okay, it's the winter time, we might take it off the market and put it back on in a couple of months. Because they know what I do as far as the work, you know. But some agents, when the house doesn't sell, for instance, like this one, they just shut down and they're afraid to talk to the seller because they feel as though they failed the seller. If I feel like I did everything I could and it's priced accurately, the market is just unresponsive, I still will let you know that. So when you are willing to put it back on the market, I'm still top of the line because you know, hey, this person communicated with me. Just leaving a seller in limbo, as most agents do, is terrible, right? So you always want to send an email. I do a weekly recap. Hey, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. We're not able to sell. We got showings. I did an open house. Nobody came through. Maybe we need to consider repricing, or maybe we take it off the market, wait till the spring. Whatever it may be, communicate, right? It's better for me to over communicate and the seller say, all right, man, I know you're working. Then what are you doing? What are you doing to sell my house? You know, hey, I posted this here, I did that, I did this, I did that, you know, I ran these ads. So the seller knows you're working, right? All right, so effective communication and responsiveness throughout the process. Even when you get an offer and you're under contract, you should get an agent that's going to communicate each process to you. Hey, the inspection is going to be done at this time. Hey, there's going to be a final walkthrough at this time. Hey, we need the repairs done at this time. Just constantly is on top of it. You know, the transaction coordinating a phase of the deal to see it all the way through. Some agents, they sign these contracts and they just kind of forget about things, you know, and deadlines come and then they put you at a disadvantage as a seller because you don't meet your deadlines, right? Skilled negotiation to maximize the sale price and favorable terms. Honest advice on your home preparation, repair, and staging. So just one thing I found out, I'm willing to walk away from a deal than just be hell bent on getting a listing. I buy snacks, print flyers, run ads, sometimes even spend money on minor touch-up repairs. And if I don't sell the house, I lose. You know, so the goal is not to list, it's to sell. So I'd rather be honest with the seller up front than take a listing that's not going to sell. You know, the goal is not to list the house, it's to sell the house. So be aware of agents that just come and just promise you things to get a listing. You know, it's better to look for an agent that will be honest with you than one that just tells you what you want to hear, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to despise them when that house doesn't sell and they've overpromised and underdelivered. Transparent commission structure and contract terms. You know, in the state of Maryland, it's actually law. The seller needs to know what the commission structure is. It's not a dollar amount that is etched in stone. Everything is negotiable, but you need to know that as a seller. So transparent commission structure and even the listing terms is actually illegal in Maryland for you to just have an open-ended listing. There needs to be an expiration date on that listing contract. Once again, I'm licensed in DC and Maryland, but we're going to say access to a strong network of buyer agents, buyers, and vendors. You know, I think my database right now is going on maybe 20-something thousand contacts, you know. So you need somebody in the area that can access this, you know, has buyers on standby. You know, sometimes people say, oh, I want a listing agent. A buyer's agent sometimes can get your home sold faster because they're dealing with a lot of buyers. Think about that. If they're dealing with a lot of buyers in the area, you may want somebody who's working with buyers, you know, in the area. In the area is key. Positive client reviews, testimonials, and referrals. What I like to do sometimes is just send potential sellers a page of my sales and reviews by customers. That speaks for me, and I leave it at that, right? But it's better when they say self-praise is not a recommendation. I can come and praise myself all I want to, but a real recommendation is when a client says, this agent did this for me. You know, familiarity with local contracts, disclosures, and regulations. So this is key when you got an agent that doesn't know what's required in certain areas. Like, for instance, in Washington County, there are these agricultural disclosures that need to be made, similar to Charles County. If you are 1,000 feet away from the Chesapeake Bay, there are these disclosures about, you know, the conservation things that need to be put in place. I'm just saying every area has different things and different requirements. You need an agent that knows all these requirements because it just makes it easier on the transaction. You know, that's why most commercial agents don't necessarily like working with residential agents, because they got to do all this work. The residential agent doesn't know all the steps and the procedures. So they feel as though they're going to work for both agents. So I don't want to do that. Clear plan for showing schedules and buyer feedback. Once again, for me personally, is that weekly update and email as to what's going on. Professional presentation and representation of your home. It just goes to photography, videos, staging, things of that nature. Trustworthiness and alignment with your selling goals. So you need to be on the same page with your listing agent. Well, we're going to wrap it up right there. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Like the video, and I have something in the description for you, which is a home seller's guide, and it's free of charge. You can get that in the description down below. Thanks for watching.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.